Salutations, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Decision Hour. I'm Adam, and with me, as always, Patty.
Hello, Adam.
Well, hello, Patty.
How are you?
Salutations. How are you today?
Greetings, Earthling.
Oh, my goodness. We have way too much fun. But I love it. I love it. We are continuing on with our series today, Mind Shift. And the topics, the topic today is what?
Today, we're going to talk about the power of forgiveness.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I thought I was ready for this show, and I got like 1,000 things going through my head right now.
Yeah, let me tell you a story.
All right, I'm listening.
Okay. So recently, I was with a group of veterans, and there's this guy.
Okay.
I think I'll change his name in case his mother listens to the show. But we'll say his name is Tim. So we're all hanging out at Tim's house. And he says, I want you to know that my mom might be coming over. And I need to tell you about my history. And he proceeds to talk about all of the foster homes that he jumped through growing up. And he talks about how his mother is an alcoholic and she has been his entire life. And at one point they lived in the back of a U-Haul truck. And another point, he's living in a foster home where they basically slaved him to death, pretty much almost as a kid. And how he did poorly in school. And how his mother probably would have pimped off his sister if they hadn't been placed in a foster care home because of her alcoholism. She would do anything for money. And he's telling me all this stuff about his mother. And I thought, and he invited her to his place for it was Mother's Day weekend. How could he do that? I mean, how could he love his mother the way that she treated him his entire life? And I said, it takes a big man to forgive something like that. That's a big thing. And he said, not really. When I learned to forgive her for everything that she did to me, it actually freed my heart. And he said, I just needed to warn you about her because she's still an alcoholic and she will probably be drunk when she comes over. And I thought, oh my word. He said, but even when she's drunk, she's still good with my son. And that's all that's important to me. And I thought, oh my goodness, there's all these scenarios in my head,
You start assuming things.
Yeah. So she comes over and I could tell as an adult, I can tell she was tipsy. But I will say, she was nice. She was great with his child. She came in, she could only stay about an hour because she wanted to go back out and drink. He did have, he has a couple of rules, no drinking in his house and things like that. But wow, when you meet this man, he is truly one of the most forgiving people I've ever met. He is a motivator. He is a mover and shaker. He is just a phenomenal person. He opened his house up in the past to several people who just needed a place to stay or who wanted to go on a retreat. And he literally showed everybody what we should do, basically, is forgive people no matter what.
Sometimes it's tough,
depending
on the situation.
Yeah, he said it took him a long time to get where he is, but he finally could truly forgive her.
I knew a kid when I was younger that was afraid of his dad, and if I remember correctly, he didn't go like I think the dad had like visitation rights, right? And if I remember correctly, like him and his sister would where they were supposed to go. Like we didn't see them on certain weekends or certain days of school because he was over at his dad's house. And after a while, it was like he was. I mean, he was growing up. He was terrified. He'd always say that he's afraid of his dad. And if you look at him, his dad was like a mountain of a man. I mean, he was a big guy. And he had stopped going over there. And when I asked him, like, why don't you go see your dad anymore? Your sister always goes, why don't you go see your dad anymore? And he was like, well, they're always talking smack about my mom, or they're always talking about how things should be this way or that way or whatever else, right? And he ends up moving away, and I see him, I don't know, 20 years later, I think. And he was telling me, yeah, I'm going to my dad's house or whatever. And I was like, oh, it's like, I remember when you were a kid, you didn't really, have a good relationship there. And he's like, took me till I was 30 years old. And I was like, when was the last time you saw him? He was like, I was 14 was the last time I saw them. And I'm 30 now. I'm not 30, but at the time this conversation happened, he was 30. And I said, what changed your mind? He's like, my daughter. He's all like, they kept calling and I just kept putting it off. And I realized that I did not want to go through life being angry and pissed off. You know what I mean? Because that was what I was letting that control my feelings. I was letting that affect my life. And he said, so I decided that, you know what? I'm a lot more mature now. I'm not afraid of this person. So I forgave them. Forgave them for the abuse, verbal abuse, being scared. I forgave. And I straight up told them that you can be here for my daughter. I'll never call you dad. But if you want, but we can be friends. And, last I heard, I didn't talk to him a couple of years, but last I heard that things were going pretty well. But I mean, you think about something like that, having somebody having someone else have that much control over you because of an incident or several things that happened when you were younger. It's like living in a prison. You're like, you know what I mean? And I know other people where they have been, whether it's they've just gone through some really horrible things, and it's affected their life in a kind of a negative way. They've done what they can going through, and I'm always the type that it's like, you can forgive. You don't have to. Nobody's telling you need to forget it. But if you can forgive the person, you can move forward in life.
It totally, it lightens your load so much.
Yeah, like a weight lifted off your shoulders.
I have had several incidents through life where somebody may not have treated me very nicely, or it's an understatement, huh, Adam?
I'm not laughing.
But
well, maybe a little bit, but
yeah, Adam knows. Some people have been complete jerks, basically, but not a lot. But the thing is, to this day, no matter how I think horrible a couple people have been or horrible situations have been, I can honestly say like right now, as I sit here and do this show, I have nobody that I hate.
And hate's such a strong word.
Yeah, and I forgave them a long time ago. And it's funny because I could literally sit and hold a grudge. But if you do that, it just can eat your insides out.
I
And it's not healthy.
yeah, I was going to use an example. I'm not now, but there's been someone close that I ended up forgiving for doing something that wasn't very honorable, and I forgave that person because it ended up turning out much better for me in the end.
And that
Yeah,
happens. Karma comes around.
it really does. I'll say
And then
this.
you feel sorry for him in the end.
Well,
I do.
I'm
Maybe not Adam.
I'm a bit of an ass, so I guess maybe. I mean, I'm sympathetic to a point, but I do believe in karma. I'll also say this, Patty. We've sat here and talked about, forgiving other people, and it's easy to, we sit here and not that we're pointing at people like I forgave this person or I forgave that person. We've given examples like that, but there's been times in my life where I've had to look in the mirror, and the only person I needed to forgive was myself. And I think there's a lot of people out there that suffer from this, where they maybe they did something wrong. Maybe it was something that you weren't proud of. God, we could do a whole show. We could do a whole series on stuff that that Adam isn't necessarily proud of. We're not going to, by the way. But I mean, I'm sure there's things, if I sat down and actually thought about it through and through, and I had to look in the mirror and I was like, you know what? I'm trying to figure out why I can't break out of my box yet, because I hadn't forgiven myself. And I think once you've made the decision and you've shifted your mind to forgive yourself, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, life is so much sweeter when you do that, and you're giving yourself kind of the power back. You're not living in a box. You're not, you're allowing yourself to be happy. And there was years, God, Patty, there was years where I sat in my box and I wouldn't, everything was, it was kind of a pity party thrown, it was this, it was that, it was whatever. And I just look at it, it's your fault. It's your own damn fault. And it was. There was a lot of it that was my fault. But I couldn't forgive myself for it. I let it eat me. I let it eat me away. And it was that's when the demons would come out and play. And it wasn't until I forgave myself is when all of a sudden it was like a much brighter future. Like things got better. Things were more, I saw things from like it was like a whole new world. And it was crazy.
As we sit here and talk, the guy I was talking about at the beginning of the show, who I call Tim, he literally just sent me a text message and he said, look at what I did for myself. He went and he bought himself a boat. And I have to bring this up because, yes, I have to bring this up because he has never allowed his past to define him nor to hold him back. He has a gorgeous house. He has a gorgeous girlfriend. He has a beautiful boy, son. And he said, he'd really enjoy a boat. And now I'm getting a text saying that he just went and bought himself a boat. So
congratulations.
Yes, forgiving really played a crucial part in his life, I do believe, because he could have blamed everything on his upbringing to turn out to be a horrible human being. But the fact of the matter is he's honestly one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met. And it's because of his past, and he forgave.
Here's the other thing is like those of us that are listening to the show right now, if you blame stuff on your past, first off, you're living in the past. Don't.
Yeah.
Right? And if you think you're a good person now, which you are, then, leave the past in the past. Forgive. I'm not telling you to forget, but I'm telling you to forgive. Forgive, move forward, and be grateful that stuff happened to you because it made you the person that you are today. I mean,
yeah.
I think a lot of people forget that.
Yeah, I know people who easily forgive, and they have such a bright outlook on things. And I also know very few, but I do know a couple who can't forgive anything, who they blame everything on everybody else, and their life is so miserable. So just think about, what kind of life do you want to live? Do you want to be free and um, like not bound by anything? Then you're gonna have to forgive people, and you're gonna have to forgive yourself, and that's it. That's all I have to say, Adam.
I was just going to ask you, what else do you have about it?
I knew you were gonna say that.
I mean, that's it, folks. That's all the time that we have. The power of forgiveness. Maybe there's somebody in your life that you're thinking of right now as you're listening to this that you need to forgive, or maybe that person is the person in the mirror. Whatever it is, whatever the case is, forgive and move forward with it. And if you have that epiphany and you do forgive and you're willing to share it, we'd love to hear about it. Or maybe you're having a hard time forgiving and you want to talk about it, reach out to us. We'll help you overcome it. You can email us at thedecisionhour@gmail.com. Follow us on social media, The Decision Hour on Facebook, Instagram. And before we let you go, big special thanks to Heroes Media Group, all the great shows, the writers over there. They got several new products that are out now for authors and audiobooks and whatnot. So go check them out, www.heroesmediagroup.com. And until next time, for Patty, I'm Adam. We appreciate you. Thanks for you. You've been listening to The Decision Hour.